I'm Michelle.
And I'm Katherine.
And we're here at the Healthy Hurried Human podcast,
where we talk about keeping pace in a world that never slows down.
Well, hi, welcome back to the Healthy Hurried Human podcast. We're going a little rogue today. I'm Michelle.
I'm Katherine.
And today we have a guest joining us off camera, and it is our beautiful, talented producer, Gianni.
Yay. I didn't realize I was on camera. I really didn't. I mean, I'm over here trying to finally watch the rest of this video, and I'm like, okay, I guess
it's all right.
Well, so we're going to be, we find some interesting conversations because there's some things in the headlines here lately, actually for the last year, but it seems like it's ramping up as far as how much we're hearing about AI taking over. And I think, and we've mentioned it on previous podcasts, I think there was this belief that we had a few more years before we started seeing what we're seeing this year. At least I know that's where I was. I thought, we got 5-10 years before we start seeing AI really coming in. And I think we're all a little surprised at how fast AI is coming in and taking over. So Gianni, you had some questions for us.
So for me, I think AI is infiltrated all areas of our life. Like, even if we're not using it directly, all of the industries have some sort of AI, whether it's the technology they're using to run their business or the technology that's actually doing the thing for the business. And so for me, like, we were just having a conversation. We were like, we should record this. The question for me, I'm a 35-year-old. I'm a business owner. I was, up until August, I worked in the corporate world in healthcare software. Where AI, they're slowly integrating AI. I don't know why healthcare is so late, but my questions and just discussions I was having with one of my friends was, AI is everywhere, right? And it's not going to slow down. And so as we think about jobs or industries, what industries do you feel like are still going to require some sort of human touch? And maybe still utilizing AI, but also still need humans. Because we see, like we were talking, there's a lot of industries that probably aren't going to really need humans, right? Eventually. So what industries do you see, like, AI being in, but also still needing a human touch? Because, a lot of people have lost their jobs, especially in the tech space.
So we were talking about how the industries that I'm seeing and the research that's out there is saying very high human touch industries are going to be a little more insulated from AI, but no industry, I can't think of a single industry that is going to be fully insulated from AI. I really can't, unless I'm like, I just went to like a horse ranch, but I'm guessing they're going to find a way to use it if it's their marketing or something. AI is in everything. If we do anything digitally, or we have to market or let anybody, I feel like AI is going to be involved in that. But education, we talked about education. AI will definitely be heavily in education, but you're still going to need human people interacting with little humans. Education, healthcare, as AI is infiltrating healthcare, but it's not going to be able, I don't think it's going to be able to fully take over. And then, what was the other industry I had mentioned? I mean, for so long.
I can't wait to hear Catherine's response. She's warming up.
I am warming up because I'm going to be the contrarian on today's episode. I'm so excited about it. I can't wait.
For so long, we've thought, and this is where Catherine's going to jump in, but for so long, we've been telling, recent high school grads, go into the trades because that's where you're going to be able to make your money, and AI is not going to be able to touch you. She's going to have a different take on that. I have a different take on what she has with that.
I do too.
So I'll let her.
Yeah.
I still think trades are going to be somewhat insulated from that. So those are a few of the industries I see that are going to have some insulation.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be able to find an industry that isn't going to be touched by AI.
Yeah.
Well, you're making a general statement that everything's being touched by AI, which I feel like was the conversation we had in the 80s was what is a computer used for? Oh, a computer is a glorified typewriter.
Yeah.
And now you don't need to learn computer science. It's just going to be used for data processing, typing. It's just a glorified typewriter. And now we have computers in every single thing in our home. We've got them in our refrigerators, laundry machines, washing machines, dishwashers. You can have a heated floor. We've got Nest and different things in our homes that will turn on our light bulbs. Yeah. We can be away from home and program everything. We are moving to is programmable. Our beds are programmable. I haven't found a programmable drawer, but I know they exist because I watched Princess Diaries 2, and she flipped a switch and her drawers open. Like, we have programmable glasses. The thing is that also all of these programmable things are also now learning. They're learning how we use their products, whether it's the glasses, the lenses that we have, but they're learning how often we open and close their doors. They're learning our routines, and AI is learning how we think and what we like when we're using Copilot, ChatGPT. I just forgot the name of the other one. That's Claude. Yeah. So we have these learning devices.
Is that Musk's new one? Who's Claude?
I think it is.
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
But so we have these. But they are designed to learn from. They are learning from us, and they have outdistanced us. And in certain jobs, can be replaced. They don't require health care. They're cheaper to use. They've gone from being a tool to being the worker in a lot of ways. And it's seemingly unlimited of what they can learn to do. We have self-driving cars I watched iRobot, sure, but we didn't really think self-driving cars were going to be a thing. We thought they were going to be more driving on a grid. Right. And now, I watched one of them drive through a parking lot the other day. What is it? Waymo?
Yeah.
And I realized that Waymo's not just driving. Waymo's also videotaping me as I'm standing on the street corner. It's watching me. They have a learning, however they've been designed to have a learning aspect, is adding more data for them to develop more products. That's not what a Texas Instruments calculator did. Mm-mm. It only did calculations. It didn't learn how I used it. And now we have AI that learns how we use it. What was it, a couple years ago? Every new update with your iOS system or that you would have, or your iOS, sorry, would say, hey, we're going to learn from you, or we're going to track your data, or we're going to do this. And it's product learning. Yeah.
This episode of the Healthy Hurried Human podcast is sponsored by Midlife Thrives. Midlife Thrives is for women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s navigating perimenopause and menopause. If you've felt the energy dips, the mood swings, or the brain fog that make you wonder if you're losing yourself, you're not alone. Midlife Thrives is here to help give you clarity, resources, and a supportive circle of women who get it. No quick fixes, no shame, just some real guidance for real life. Learn more and connect at midlifethrives.com, because thriving in midlife isn't optional, it's your new standard. Well, so part of when I was talking to the fella that I had mentioned earlier that's talking to the UN about AI and how it impacts war, was saying that AI's been around a very long time, but that there were policies and different things in place that kept real tight parameters on it. And this isn't meant to be political, because to be honest, I really have no idea where it originated from. But policies have changed so drastically in the last 5 to 10 years that they've started taking these fences off of how we use AI and
guardrails. They called them guardrails.
And I'm wondering if that's why we're seeing all of a sudden it seems like this explosion in AI, because the guardrails have recently fallen down. And it's I personally believe that, I'm hopeful that society gets to a certain place that society says, wait a minute, I'm not. And there is pockets of people who I feel like we're a little bit like that in our family, when it comes to we don't have tons of controllable things in our house. And I prefer old cars, and I have this stance that we will always have a car that's one car that will be less than 2011. You want to ask me why that year, but there will always be a car in our driveway that is less than 2000 and younger or old
Younger.
than a 2011.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the next washer and dryer we're getting, they have brought them back. 5 years ago when we were looking for washer and dryer, we could not get one without a computer board.
Yeah.
Now you can get the dials. That's what we had wanted,
Well,
because my dad was but now you can, now they're bringing the back.
Yeah.
And it's like, go for the dials, because the less computer things you have it does allow you to fix them. It does allow you to not give as much control. I think we might run into where society may say, wait a minute, we're going to put guardrails up for ourselves.
So
Yeah.
I would like to see this washing machine that does not have a computer in it, because we just bought one for my parents. We could not find a single model that did not have a form of a computer on it at all. They had dials, but every single one of them had some aspect of a computer in it.
Yeah, they exist.
Yeah.
So
Did you have another question?
I think the reason why it seems like AI is going rampant is because it seems like a big explosion of it is because, yes, there were guardrails in place, but it's moving so fast that they can't, and they don't know what it's going to do. That, yeah, they had those guardrails, but now they're creating things outside of those guardrails, and they don't know that the next guardrail is needed until we get to that point. Like, oh, snap.
But AI, so I think what you're saying is AI is developing faster than we could even put the guardrails up.
It's developing faster than we can regulate.
So I listened to the Diary of a CEO, that podcast, and he had on Dr. Roman Yampolsky, if I'm saying his name correctly. And Dr. Roman Yampolsky is a leading voice in AI safety and a professor of computer science and engineering. And he coined the term AI safety in 2010 and has written over 100 papers on it. And he has a book called Considerations on the AI Endgame, Ethics, Risks, and Computational Frameworks. And he was saying that there were guardrails that were set in place for that, and they have completely blown them out of the water because of making money and profit.
Yeah.
And he is sounding the alarm that the guardrails are down. They are not considering ethics and morality. They are chasing the dollar of who can be the first one to get it out, who can be the one that can make the most money. And that, I think, is what is alarming to me, listening to him talking about and this is where I'm getting my information about, in 20 years, we'll have robots that are plumbers.
Tired teams don't just need another training, they need transformation. The Healthy Hurried Human Lab helps organizations build emotionally fit, resilient, and connected teams that perform better without burning out. This interactive training goes beyond theory, combining organizational psychology with personal appraisal that helps every participant understand how their mental, emotional, and relational habits show up at work. When people grow, companies thrive. Book your Healthy Hurried Human Lab for your teams today at foxygenconsulting.com and start creating healthier, more human workplace.
I was recently in a Bible study, and we were discussing what our work week had been, and this woman in the Bible study shared that her corporate company had a whole rollout day of, we're now using Microsoft Copilot, and you need to put all your work through it. And even in spite of spreadsheets or different things, or whatever her role was that she typically did on her computer herself,
everything she touches for her job.
Yep, they want it to run through that. And it was confusing of, how do I even put that in there? But then the next day I was reading an article and discovered that they're doing that for AI learning. Mm-hmm. And they're doing that because AI will learn her job, and eventually they will not need her.
I think that's
Do you think she knew that? She was more stuck on the fact this is difficult.
It was a very brief conversation that I asked. Of course, I locked in, was like, I need to know a few more, and I asked a few key questions about it. about what do you mean by that? And then the next day I was reading these articles and realized and put two and two together. So I didn't ask that question of, do you know why they're doing this?
Right. I just wondered if you picked up on whether she knew it, because when you were sharing it with me, I knew right away that they want AI to learn her job and everybody's job.
Well, you're smarter than me, but it was it was an interesting concept of me listening to her talk about that, about why you would run it through. Because personally, don't come at me, I do not like Copilot, and I want to use Microsoft as word processing. And when I open up my Word document, it is so hard. I spend 25 minutes getting Copilot off. I want Copilot out of my business. Yeah. I don't want it to help. Let me help you write that. No, I don't need you to know what I'm writing. Yeah. And guess what? I don't need your help. And
it does interrupt a lot.
It's very disruptive. And it is also because I don't need it to know what I'm doing.
So what are you feeling? What are your feelings towards how rapidly you're seeing it change, especially for you who's in the marketing sector?
I think that, well, my immediate reaction to when I hear about AI replacing people, I'm like, we just have to step our game up. But I don't know if there's going to be enough stepping your game up in specific industries, because we're never going to be able to reach the peak and the altitude of what AI knows. It's always going to be a few steps ahead of us. But then on the other side of that, I'm like, AI still needs us to learn behaviors and learn patterns. And so without us, AI is only going to be able to reach a certain level. But there's always going to be somebody smarter, always going to be somebody quicker, always going to be somebody, the list goes on and on. So I don't know. I just feel like if you're resistant to AI, like, I think it needs to be something that's integrated into whatever it is that you're doing. I'm not saying you have to use Copilot. I personally don't like Copilot either. I prefer ChatGPT if I use it. But I think it's something to be embraced instead of not knowing. Now, you get to choose the limitations in which you want to use AI. I use AI a lot, especially in business. Yeah. Because I'm a team of one. And so that's my stance on it. But then at the same time, like, as a person, like, I have a business, but as a person that is looking at getting back into the corporate world, I'm like, I don't even know, like, am I going to be needed anymore? Like, is my human existence going to be needed in a corporate space in the roles for which I bring value to? And so that's kind of where I'm at in the conversations that I'm having, even with the girls in my small group. Like, we're taught this, and it's been passed down from generations, like, go to school, get a good education, get a good job. Well, good education and good job no longer exists because that's AI has taken that. And so I was talking to someone, and I was telling them, I was like, and now it's the perspective is changing a little bit. Like, I'm not paying for Cannon to go to college.
Your son.
Yeah, I'm not. Like, you're not going to school for marketing. You're not going to school for journalism. Like, you're not, unless it is a specific industry that requires you to have a degree, like a medical professional. I'm personally not paying for you to go to college. If I had to do it over, I wouldn't have paid
all the money you paid to
go to college. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have an MBA in marketing for what? Right.
I mean, it is, to me, I don't feel overly hopeless with AI, although right now I do feel like we're getting a little bit crushed. I mean, for Katherine and I, when we're reading the headlines and UPS is laying off and Amazon's laying,
Target,
and like they're all laying off. But like for us being in this,
people,
in this industry, for us, that's very disheartening to see people. We see the human side of that. Yeah. So yes, that is there. But I think for me, and I bring this up with Karen, I think about my kids, because we have been, both my husband and I have higher degrees by a couple times, and it has served us because we're very much in people direct industry. He's a teacher, but we are saying to our kids, we're not pushing, we haven't pushed college for a while, unless we've got one who definitely wants to be a teacher, and we've got another we're trying to push in that direction. And then have, and here lately I've been like, oh, being a landscaper. And he might be able to get a full career in on that before you see the robots cutting the grass and designing.
They already have.
You know, I know they do, but in general, people are going to still want a human being.
That's true.
Like, you have to think about, in our lifetime, we saw the customer service go from a person picking up the phone to now the automated, which has been around for probably 30 years, probably longer than I even think.
Yeah.
But how long did we resist that? How long even now I'm like, I would just like you to get me to a person, you know, like agent, you know, we still want, humans are still going to want the human connection.
Especially older, right? Sorry. Like, I think about my grandpa who's about to be 94. Like, he still goes and
but
pays.
Don't think about your grandpa. Think about you in
Well,
20 years. Are you going to want a robot to come ask you how you want your yard redesigned or repurposed or what flowers? Or are you going to be like, I'm going to go for a place that has a human? Because you as a generation, what did you grow up with? Now I think...
Like Cannon's generation.
I think maybe actually their kids.
I would like to challenge these statements.
I feel like I'm in court for a second.
Well, because
Your Honor,
the Gen Zs that I am working with get their facts from YouTube. They do not get them from the educator standing in front of them, or the older generation. They do not know how to date.
No.
They interact completely on a phone.
Yeah.
They not only, the phone is something that they control and turn off and keep on silent and only text back and forth. They have limited their communication styles to brief, short words, and they do not know, they've already changed. They are not influenced more by people. They are influenced more by phones. Here, I want to throw one more thing out there. I was listening again to actors on a podcast, and they were talking about the fact that they have because let me see if I can get this right. Because nobody just sits and watches a television show anymore. They have their phones in their hand. They have a computer screen in front of them. That what used to be, they are changing the way they write dialogue and scripts. We are dumbing down scripts and adding phrases that would have been nuance you observed to being now have to be said. Why are you wearing that green? They're changing the way dialogue is written because they're realizing they don't have eyes. The fight for what you're looking at is you are in massive competition. So they are literally changing the dialogue in the movies they are producing and the television content that they are producing to say obviously stated or nuance that we would have been able to observe, because people don't know how to observe that anymore. Their brains are not trained to observe the nuance. They're being told directly, and it's changing and it's dumbing down the scripts and television and content input, which means your child is going to be used to that because he's been spoon-fed it in his TV shows, his cartoons, because there's a fight for the eyes. So this is also makes it easier for AI to be in there because there's less creativity, there's less nuance, there's less opinions, there's less conversation, there's less philosophy, because we're not teaching that, we're not consuming that. We are fighting for the gaze, the eyes.
Man, that's just, boy, you just took us to a whole nother level.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm telling you all, as the contrarian, it's sooner than you think. I have not fact checked this, but I read last night that somebody was able to hack into Roombas in people's homes and get them to move around and actually speak through them. Like, all of these great technological things that advance and make our lives simpler and easier are hackable. I mean, there was a joke 5 years ago that your Dyson hairdryer, or that, who's listening through your devices that you have. And how many shows 5 years ago did we see that when the spies or whatever, they take their phone and they take it apart and they take the battery out so that nobody could listen in. Yeah. And now we're like, yeah, you know what? At my convenience, please listen in. I'm going to plug you in my car. I'm going to have you in my earbuds. I'm going to have you on my glasses. They're recording what you look at, how long you stare at a certain thing.
And I think that's why, have you ever had a conversation with somebody who was like, yeah, I started getting ads of something that I only had in my brain, hadn't even mentioned it. And I'm like, that has to be somehow through, you may have only thought about it, but there's something in your world.
It's how much time you linger on an ad. They track how long do you linger on an ad. What ad do you pause? Do you spend 60 seconds? So for those of you that don't...
Right, but I'm talking about the ad that you've never seen before, but you were like, I was just thinking about, I might need this.
There's
in
still
my life.
something that triggered that idea.
Something triggered it because it's like... and I'm like, it's putting together like a math equation. You did this plus this plus this. You must be wondering about that. And you're like, oh my God, I hadn't even mentioned it to my husband yet.
It's smarter than you think it is.
So I do agree with you, Katherine, that it's here. It's going to be here faster because it is already proven that. It is already proven faster than we were thinking.
So for these major companies that we see, even in the tech world, that are saying, hey, 30,000 of our employees are no longer necessary because thank you for helping us create this AI product, but we don't need you anymore. I'm going to be honest. We already knew in the world that there were people who had jobs that they weren't really, they would go to work, they would piddle around. They did, there were already some jobs out there that had a lot of waste time in them or weren't necessarily super significant. And I understand people tightening down. But when I first started working with you 2 years ago, what we thought was the biggest challenge coming our way was going to be the fight for talent. That we had more people entering the workforce with less talent, and that companies were going to fight for talent. Then last year they put out that we have fewer humans being born. But the first time in America, the number of 35-year-old women who had 0 children was at the highest it's ever been. So we have less humans entering the workforce. So my thing has been, hurry up, AI. We don't have a lot of people. And now we have healthcare cost, wage cost. So AI is technically free unless you run a data center. So if you've paid attention, what is being built all over the United States? Massive, huge, giant data centers. What do data centers need? Cooling. So they're if you want to talk about
electricity and cooling,
the and space and ground and what happens. What have we also heard? Literally contrarian. What have we also heard about what is our biggest weakness? Is a foreign country that doesn't like us attacking our electrical grid. What happens when we become dependent? So when I was in elementary school, there was a book about a boy who lived in a robotic house. And every morning it would wake him up and he would the bed would tilt and he would slide down the bed and slide into the shower, and the shower would wash him, and then he'd slide out of the shower and there would be a towel and he'd slide out of the towel, and there would be clothes that he'd put in and slide out of there, and there would be this full meal made for him, and then it would kick him out the door. And one day the electricity didn't work for 2 or 3 days. And when he woke up, all the machines double timed, and it was too much soap, and the eggs were piling on him. And we thought it was hilarious. And I've never forgotten that, because we are only as strong as our weakest link. And if a foreign country can, as we've seen with rumored past elections and electrical grids, if we are only as strong as our electrical grid because we are dependent on AI, what does that mean? That none of the businesses work.
Damn it.
And we don't get
Peppers
any food.
might have been right all along.
That book,
Well, I always go back to Wall-E. Or was that the
movie?
The movie. I since watching that, my kids were little when it came out. But I remember watching it go, oh, because even then, it came out 15 years ago. I was seeing some things, but I just remember the fact that they loved the fact that they were in little flying chairs. Nobody knew how to walk, and they loved that. And I think, oh my gosh, that's not going to be our worst. I think people are going to still want to walk, but we want something to do everything for us all the time.
We are that lure of ease, I think, has been around for millennia. Like, because you look at, like, when was it back in the Renaissance era that fat women were supposed to be the ideal epitome of wealth, and rich being very wealthy, because they were lazy. They didn't have to do anything. There's always been the lure of, you've made it when things are done for you.
But I've been hearing a phrase, it's come up several times lately, that a hard life creates hard creates ease creates hard. So when we look for the easy all the time, we actually make life harder for ourselves.
Yeah, taking this shortcut is actually the long route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if we want to have another podcast episode where we talk about the real development and of a human apart from any electronics, because there is a flip side to the coin where people, like in Japan, which has a lot of technical advancements, they have a thing called, is it called forest walks, where they have realized the impact and the power on a person physically and in their soul of going out and being surrounded by nothing but a forest.
Nature.
And removing, like, if we want to talk about physiologically what happens to our bodies being surrounded by these computers and how it affects our brains, and how I'm really leaning into my Tiva era. I don't know how many pairs of Tivas. Michelle doesn't like them, but
the shoes.
The shoes.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, but there's this little tiny part of me that's like, the idea of the fact that at any given point I could walk through water and be fine and not hurt my shoes, or the beauty idea of, like, I really just want to be walking through a creek right now. Like, really, that's like my happy place.
Do you have
is
a
my feet
Tiva
in
Christmas ornament?
No.
We need to find one.
I want to be walking. I love walking through a small river or a creek. And to me, everything about that is perfection. And so there is something in if we want to talk about humans in the next podcast or next recording.
Well, grounding and getting exposed to the negative ions that we need, because we're saturated in the positive ions, which sounds counter, like people are like, oh, it's positive. No, that's too much. We're not supposed to have all the positive ions. We're supposed to be really saturated in negative ions. That's why we have the salt rocks. I have those in my rooms, and the different, earth things that help that. But bare feet on grass is and what that does for your body.
I am
the
one
grounding.
Velcro swipe away from bare feet on grass.
There you go. There's your plug for Tiva.
But honestly, like, we're talking about all of the advancements and how they impact the workforce. And Michelle and I even talking about just the psychological safety of what does it mean when you're in a workforce and you're watching whole floors get eliminated.
So I got the chance, and I might bring this up again on a episode later, but UPS just laid off a bunch of workers. And so I got to talk to a UPS employee this weekend, and I was like, how are you feeling? And he's a driver. And he's like, I'm fine. He goes, it was all management. I thought I was like, oh, Katherine would like to be in this conversation. And he goes, you know what? He goes, UPS tends to be a historical thing that they do. He goes, they get fat and then they trim the fat, and it's at that management level. And he goes, you don't need a manager who their only job is to order uniforms. He's like, but as economies, he goes, they want the leadership is wanting the COVID days where everybody was sitting at home ordering. He goes, that's not where we're at. That's not where society is, but they still want that money, those numbers. And he said, in order to do that, it was time to trim the fat. And they realized they're doing it at the management level, and they have managers for things you don't need a manager for.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was an interesting perspective, that some of these companies get fat. Some of these companies really benefited from times like COVID, but are realizing that maybe we can still have the numbers that we want if we put people out of jobs. But then it's like, you really didn't need to have people in that job to begin with.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about people's awareness of taking jobs, of knowing whether to say yes to a job. Like for me, or if my husband had said, hey, UPS is offering to give me a promotion to manager and my job is going to be to use uniforms. I don't understand why that's not a red flag or a yellow flag to somebody to be like, that's not a job that's going to create security, because that is definitely a line you can cross off when you come to trying to tighten your belt, to me. So I think we need to turn it to, and this is where you and I need to talk about, is helping people looking for jobs or wanting to be marketable, is don't say yes just because somebody offers you a job. Think about the long-term longevity of the job they're offering you. Being more,
Yeah.
My little contrarian role now is gonna say,
are we going to do this on every episode?
I don't know.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
The Healthy Hurried Human podcast is brought to you by Foxygen Consulting and a handful of silent sponsors who believe in this work and quietly keep us going. We see you, we thank you, and we are glad that you're part of this journey.